You ever wondered what happens when a screw goes down your carburetor and your engine's still running? Me neither, so let's find out together. Oh, that's not good. Well, there goes a couple $1,000. Merry Christmas to me. Alright, so the cylinder heads are off, and the lie detector says everything is toast. So I don't know if, someone like sabotaged my car, sitting at a car show maybe, and someone dropped some screws, because they are in 3 of 8 cylinders. So when I first pulled it apart, it looked like machine screws or something, or maybe even wood screws. It's hard to say because they're so chewed up. We'll see what other damage is lurking here. This thing literally went, I drove it around fine, and then the first time I really got on the gas, it went bang and started hammering immediately. And I didn't know what it was until I pulled it all apart and found what I found. Oh, we'll get ready to do some surgery here. Pull out this bad boy, because I ain't lifting that thing. At least everything rolls, so, that makes it a lot easier. Capitán, it is in position. Going up. Very slowly. Very slowly. And tighten 1. Tighten 2. Scotty, beam me up. And now we can roll this out from underneath. Don't need that anymore. Bring this up a bit higher so I can get the old engine stand underneath it. But first, I'd like to show you something that I recently discovered. So remember I was saying that this thing kind of went bang and immediately started making bad noises? Well, it turns out that Uncle Rod is calling on Christmas Day. Except I didn't want to talk to him today, and this is not the news that I was looking forward to. Thanks, Uncle Rod. I hate you. Everything does seem to be spinning over smoothly. So, that's a plus. So this one here, cylinder number 5, seems to be about the worst one. Pretty busted up. I'm going to pop this cap off and see what we got to deal with bearing-wise, see how bad they are. I did go ahead and spin everything over. None of the push rods seem to be bent, which is a good sign. The camshaft seems to be, I don't see any flat spots. There's no bad lifters. I've been pulling them out one by one to see if there's any damage. All the lifters basically look like new still. Pretty good, I'd say. This engine was recently rebuilt, of course, by the previous owner, quote-unquote. And we all know how those Craigslist fresh rebuilds go, so everything does seem to look pretty good so far. There's some crosshatch in the cylinders. I do know that this engine has a Comp Magnum 280 cam, which is 230 duration at 50 right across the board on both intake and exhaust, and I believe it's also 520 lift. Which is pretty mild on a 454, although this is 30 over now, so 460, 461, whatever you want to call it if you want to get technical. How about these 781 cylinder heads? Pretty chewed up there. Couple little dings on the valve, it looks like, on this one anyway. The other cylinder head doesn't seem to be smacked up too bad on the valves, but the screw definitely went in a little bit. I'm sure it would clean up probably, I don't know, 10 or 20 thou if you cut them down a bit. But I might not have to go that route because it's going to take some time to pull all this out. But hiding behind the depths of this, which is a 429 big block Ford, is a fresh set of 781s wrapped up in the bag back there. And those heads are all redone, so that's a plus. I think it was a 3-angle valve job, I believe, on them. All new bronze guides and whatnot, brand new valves, brand new everything else. It's kind of a good thing about not really throwing stuff away. You always have spare parts, and sometimes, today, come in handy. Speaking of spare parts, this engine will be assembled mostly with spare parts from another 454 that I didn't really have good luck with this year. The cam went flat after it was broken in, which kind of a downside. I've never had that happen before, so that wasn't very nice. And as much as I'd like to throw this 454 in the old 67 Camaro, I don't think the 4-speed Saginaw that's destined for this car would have much luck with that kind of power. So before I flip this over and all my lifters fall out, I'm going to get a piece of cardboard, make sure I mark all of them off so they go to the correct bores when I go back in, because if you do not do that, if you fail to put them back in the bore that they came out. Because this is a used cam, this camshaft will eat itself basically as soon as you start it, almost, because every single one of these lifters has a groove on it now related to that specific cam lobe. So if you mix it up, you'll know right away because it's going to come apart again. So if you ever have to do that, make sure that you put them aside one by one. And it can't really get any easier than this. Just pull one out at a time. I lied, no cardboard, just a piece of that. Now that I got all the lifters out, I'll flip the engine upside down. Alrighty then, let's see what we got to work with. So we popped the cap off that had the most damage. My fingernail just barely catches that. It's not into the copper section of the bearing, so really didn't get too crazy in there. Not really any damage to the crank here, at least on this one, so I'd imagine the other ones won't be so bad. So who knows, we might have dodged a bit of a bullet here. I'm going to take this right apart, double check all of them. This might be something as simple as just throwing a fresh set of bearings as a precaution, and might be good to go. I'm going to go ahead though and pop this piston out. Gonna get some rubber on those ends so they don't touch the crank, because that can be a bad time. Rubber, engine building 101 is cover these rod bolts every time. Those stuck on, and then they're not going to damage the crank. The bearing's still there, temp for now, so I'm still hanging on a little bit. But ask me how I know. When you don't put those on, the very first engine I ever rebuilt, I was about 17 years old, and I touched the crank, and I didn't think it was a big deal, and the machine shop made sure I knew to never do that ever again, because it was a big deal. They had to grind another 10,000. It cost me another $100. And out comes the pretty damaged piston. Like I said, chewed right up on top. These are just cast 30 over pistons, flat tops. I could probably replace them for not very much. It's actually funny, you can see where the screw embedded itself right there even. Pistons don't seem to be cracked. The walls are a little scored up. Nothing to be too concerned about. This one's definitely getting replaced, so that's for sure. I think all three of them that are really damaged are going to get replaced. So like I said, it's not going to cost very much. Not cracked. Don't really seem to see much damage inside. You see the damage from the screws pushing it down. It's actually pinched the ring. So that's not going to do nothing anyway. Oh, actually, is that a crack? It's funny, I can't see it with my eye, but it looks like the camera's picking it up. When I was talking about the old internet buy, fresh rebuild thing, yeah. These rings almost all line up. So this would cause excessive blow-by, among other things, oil consumption. It's all bad. Don't line your rings up, ever. Anyway, more to come. Clearly, I have to order a bunch of parts. Kind of looks like everything to do a rebuild, essentially. Pistons, rings, gaskets, you name it. So that'll be on a later episode, let's call it. So like, comment, subscribe if you like what you saw. And we'll get back to this. Until then, there'll be some stuff on, this. Some of the other projects, there's a whole bunch of them going on here. So little by little, I'll piece it together and we'll put some miles on something at some point.